this idea that, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that. And someday never really comes. So you have to make your someday today. How many times can I say someday in the matter of 10 seconds? Okay. My name is Ren. I'm your host. And today I want to talk about trick-or-treating and Halloween. And it is my favorite time of the year. But I think that trick-or-treating will save America, will save the world. And I know that that's a little bit clickbaity, but it's rooted in truth. And so I just want to talk about a few different points reasons that I say that. This came up because recently when I was traveling, my friends and I got in this discussion about like trunk or treat. When kids go in a parking lot and they trick or treat out of the back of a bunch of people's vans. I know it sounds crazy, right? Yeah, because it is, but not in the way you might think. We talk a lot about the differences between trunk or treating, trick or treating. Trunk or treat, it's just what parents might think is safer. Originally, trunk or treat was a product of COVID and the times that we were locked up and, a safer way, more controlled way of trick-or-treating, which thinking about it now, literally how? Because you're still passing candy from one hand to another. I don't know, there's many people around you still, but I guess just the fact that it's outside, but so is trick-or-treating. So I don't exactly know what that thought process was. But also, it's a church's way of keeping kids safe. You see it oftentimes in a church parking lot and stuff like that. A lot of it is the idea of being safer for kids. And I also think, I want to clap back on that and also think of it kind of being more like lazy parents. Now stay with me. I'm going to kind of talk about both sides of trunk or treat, whether it's good or bad. But one of the points in our discussion was that it seems like now just lazy parenting. And I'm not a parent, so I can't, give my 2 cents in that point of view. But people say that because instead of having to, either let your kid go out and run around or walking with your kid while they trick or treat door to door in a neighborhood, it's like, okay, we're in this blocked off parking lot. I can just sit in my car, sit in the back of my trunk while my kid, I can see them from here. They're just going to go up and down these 10 to 20 cars, get their candy and call it a day. I have seen some trunk or treats be very successful that people actually deck out their cars and people are actually make it like a little haunted house. And there's some really cool, creative ways to do this. But I think that it's killing. It's ruining everything, okay? I think it's taking away a true community. I think it's taking away from the fun of Halloween. I think it's taking away from the experiential portion of exploration for kids. I think it's taking away from kind of the excitement in a way that you can't really mimic. Yes, I understand that the Halloween as it is can cause a lot of concern for parents and concern for the well-being of children. But I think that it also forces us to be in this place of uncertainty sometimes. Halloween, there's haunted houses, there's scary decorations, there's all these things that maybe kids aren't exposed to every single day, but I think exposure is a good thing. You can make the argument, is it being more safe or is it just sheltering your kids more by just giving them a trunk or treat experience versus maybe trick or treat or other Halloween traditions or activities? If I'm playing devil's advocate, I'll say, sure, it's safer because parents can easily keep their eye on their children. But also, on the other hand, you can safely bring your kids trick-or-treating while still allowing them to be really exposed to the world, to their neighborhood, to the decorations of the house on the corner that might actually be really scary and freak your kid out. But exposure is good. Those feelings that the kids might feel, I think are also necessary to development. I think it goes both ways. There's a lot of discussion right now, and more so, I guess, maybe like 5-10 years ago, of like helicopter parenting and kids being too sheltered. And now we're almost on the other end where kids like constantly have devices in their hands. So they're constantly watching like YouTube and TikTok and it's almost exposure times a million because you can't really control what they're being exposed to in that sense. So there's kind of like both of these sides of, sheltered versus extremely unsheltered, but we're sheltered in like the real life, right? I think it's really healthy for kids to go out there and learn for themselves, have to have physical human interactions with people, with strangers, because that's something that's not really forced upon kids anymore. And not forced upon in a negative way, but like people are afraid. The kids of today, the teenagers, and I say this mostly because I have friends who are teachers, multiple friends who are teachers, but these kids don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to talk to people or communicate. And so like when you're kind of forcing them to be in front of a stranger, or I guess more so allowing them to be in front of a stranger, right? To get this reward. They want candy, so they have to go knock on someone's door and say trick or treat and, show off their costumes, whatever. And I think that is crucial to development. And it's one day a year, okay, that we're doing this, that we're allowing for kids to do this. And I also think that leads me into kind of my next point of like, it's really good for community. We have so lost the art of neighborhoods. And in our digital age, it's literally something we have lost. How many neighbors can you tell me the name of right now? How many people in your apartment building or on your street do you know? Do you recognize when you walk out your door? Probably not a lot. Maybe 20 years ago, it was different. But I think that it's personally, in my opinion, right? It's very important that we should be nurturing these communities. We've really lost that, especially after COVID, when this whole trunk or treat thing began. We've lost our actual sense of communities because we're afraid to be next to each other, be outside, talk to each other face to face. It's become so digital, and you can't really get candy digitally. Okay, so this is a really good thing if we can push our kids and our people in our communities to participate with trick or treating. Again, I'm not a parent, so I can't, I guess, really have a say, but I think it's good to let your kids roam the streets. Obviously, buddy system, stay in groups, know who they're going with, know your neighbors so that you have some sort of level of safety and knowledge of where your kids are. But like, let them do that. Give them a little bit of freedom, a little bit off the leash, and because they need to learn for themselves. They need to learn, I don't know, life skills. They need to learn for themselves about the world. And I think like trick-or-treating is a wonderful way to do that. On the other hand, about community, I think of people like when my grandma was alive and how she'd be so excited and also so disappointed to see kids in their costumes, show them off, all these things, but then there'd be no one that goes knocks on her door. I think about my dad or people living alone. That's like, it'd be so wonderful to see, happy smiling faces, kids showing off their costumes, seeing the creativity on Halloween and some sort of celebration of community, of this really fun holiday that it's turned into, that it's morphed into over the decades, over the century. It's just kind of sad to think that we're losing this tradition and that it could be something really exciting that people look forward to that we are just losing. And it's, as the people giving out the candy, it's just as fun as the people receiving the candy and having that whole trick or treat experience. As I've gotten older, I would love to be the person to give out candy, but no one's knocking on my door. No one, even in my apartment buildings that I've lived in my neighborhood, like that I grew up in, there's no one knocking on doors. And that's literally so sad. You look out your window and it's sad, okay? It's disappointing. There used to be kids and parents and teenagers running up and down the streets. Even if it's a little bit of mayhem, that's okay. We've lost that. It's so frustrating. It's frustrating for all these reasons. And also, it is a form of mutual aid, which is how we survive in this world. Mutual aid is defined as an organizational model where voluntary, collaborative exchanges of resources and services for common benefit take place amongst community members to overcome social, economic, and political barriers to meeting a common goal. Okay, that's a really obviously academic definition, but it really works as mutual aid. I'm thinking even about the communities that might be in a little more poverty, but then they're having the opportunity to meet their neighbors, feel safe in their neighborhoods, to have, I know it's candy, but also snacks. You know how so many people hand out pretzels, apples, all different kinds of gifts and treats that actually can help the children that they're going to. Community really is at the basis of everything that we do. If you think about it, like our little circles of our families and our friends, that's community. The things that we're involved in, whether it's a class, a sport, whatever that is, those are little communities. Our neighborhoods, our communities, our churches, and we need to nurture those. And that is how we participate in mutual aid, for the common good, for safety, to overcome those economic barriers that it mentions. Like, not everyone in your communities are going to have the same backgrounds, the same income, the same socioeconomic standing. And so when we participate in these sort of community activities, it can actually be extremely helpful for the well-being of our communities, of the people around us, of the things that of the ways that we interact with the world around us. And again, I understand that Halloween, in and of itself, what it's become over the centuries, it's no longer, the celebration between the seasons. It's no longer Samhain, the pagan holiday where we took a lot of these traditions from. It's not how our Western world celebrates. And so I understand that there can be some hesitancy around allowing your kids to run free on this really creepy kind of spooky night of the year, season of the year. But again, there is a lot of value in that when we can recognize the reasons for these traditions in the first place and make it a celebration rather than something that should be feared. And I only say that because of all the myths and things about, razor blades and candy bars and all these other negative kind of headlines that Halloween has attracted over the years. We can make it a safe celebration of the changing of the seasons, of acknowledging the death that happens at this time of year. All of the trees are dying, the leaves are falling. We're going into this period of hibernation, and it should be a celebration. I'd love for that to continue to be a celebration. I want to look out my window and see kids running up and down the streets in their creative costumes and scary costumes, and people kind of embracing that darker side of things, because that is also the balance of our world. We cannot have light without the darkness. And that takes us to more of a spiritual realm, but that is what Halloween is, where Halloween comes from anyway. With all that to say, that trick-or-treating will save our communities, it will save America, and if we can really engage on a larger scale on that mutual aid and participate and be a willing participant in our communities, I think only good things can come of that. So yeah, to some degree, I do believe that trick-or-treating will save America and save our world. With all that being said, I love Halloween. I love this time of year. And at the end of this episode, I always like to give my recommendations of what I've been listening to for songs, because music is also what connects us. It binds us. Our hearts are literally beats. Our hearts make beats. Okay, it's like that 21 Pilots song. Okay, let me give some spooky song recommendations so that I am not giving you the same things over and over again. Let me go to my Doomsday playlist. Okay, I am going to recommend the song Help I'm Alive by Metric. It's kind of like alt rock, and it's on the chiller side of like my Halloween playlist. Yeah, I think it's good for the season, but also just like a good alt rock little song. I enjoy that. And I'll also recommend Lights Out by the Haxans. That is definitely more of like a Halloween forward track. Also like rock and roll kind of anthem. And yeah, definitely the perfect type of song for this season. So thank you again for listening. If you liked anything that you heard in this episode, please make sure to rate and review on whatever platform you're listening on. And also, I want to make this a conversation. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you enjoy the trunk or treat? Do you not think it's lazy parents? Do you think that I'm totally wrong in all of my stances? Let me know. My DMs are always open at Live and Large with El Crew on Instagram, or leave a comment on this podcast wherever you are listening. Thank you so much for being a part of this, for letting me open this up to community, and I'll catch you next time. Happy Halloween!